Okay.
Alright, thank you for coming today. Today we're going to learn how to make some delicious and nutritious fall festive treats. Before we start, I'm going to pass out some pen and paper, and it's just a short little survey explaining, just letting me know how I do about my presentation. The first question is just asking, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well did you know about gluten-free stuff before and then after? And there's 2 rows for 1 and 2, so just before and after. Pass one after you get it. Be awesome. And as you're doing that, it's no secret that a gluten-free diet is on the top of most magazines' weight loss lists. But for some, it is more than just a weight loss gimmick. It's a way of life. For the past few years, I've become a pretty serious baker, but in the last couple months, I've realized that I've become gluten intolerant. And it's really thrown me for a loop because it's really hard to bake when all you want is muffins and brownies and you can't exactly eat them, and who wants to bake and not be able to eat what they create? So I haven't really been able to step outside my realm of whole wheat flours and buttery, high cholesterol treats. So I did a little research and I found out there are many alternatives to flour, like brown rice flour, which is what I normally use, or almond meal and other things like that. So my fear of not being able to bake again has subsided, and I've been able to come up with several of the recipes that I've been able to tweak from the recipes I originally did and make delicious and nutritious treats. And with this research, I also found other things like other alternatives to make things healthier, like coconut oil in place of butter. There's a lot of people who can't have butter because they're lactose intolerant, but if you add coconut oil instead, it's not a very saturated, it doesn't saturate the food with the coconut flavor, but you still get the same consistency that butter gives baked goods. And it's good for your heart. So when you think of healthy baked goods, what comes to mind? Cookies. Healthy?
Oh, no, cookies.
Cookies. What else?
Carrot cake? No. Maybe the apple sauce. Banana bread.
Oreos.
Chocolate
Oreos.
cookie muffin.
Oreos? Those are healthy?
Oh yeah.
I think they clog your arteries.
It's not that good.
Angel food.
Angel food?
Holy
Very
crap.
good. When it comes to the fall, what's your favorite dessert?
Pumpkin bread.
Pumpkin pie.
So lots of pumpkin is what I'm hearing. Well, with all the fall festivities just around the corner and the flavors of pumpkin lingering in our minds, the high-calorie treats can throw a wrench in any weight loss goal. In these gluten-free vegan chia seed muffins, we will marry the autumn harvests with superfoods such as the chia seeds for a delicious and nutritious fall treat. Now, I've talked a lot about gluten. Does anybody know what gluten is? Yes, ma'am.
It is it's part of the grains from wheat, rye, and barley.
So in a lot of baking that you see at bakeries or a Starbucks or anything like that where you get like lemon loaves and muffins, it is the binding ingredient that a lot of flours have that hold most of the moisture in the beverage, in the baked good, so you don't get the dried out flavor after a couple of days. And so with gluten-free, it's really hard to go and have very moist, fresh muffins a couple of days later because we don't have that binding ingredient. But there are other ingredients that we add to flours to make them still moist. An alternative that we will be using for this muffin would be brown rice flour, tapioca starch, and potato starch with xanthan gum. Xanthan gum is the ingredient that will help the muffins stay fresh longer and be moist as long as possible. So you can enjoy these for days and you don't have to overindulge. This mixture is very similar to regular flour if you were going to do a regular recipe with gluten-full flour, but it is not as bad for you, so it doesn't have as many carbs, so it's good for you. I've already set the oven to 350, but make sure you do that before you start baking so it gets enough time to warm up as you're baking. And I've also prepared a muffin pan. This recipe will prepare 12 muffins, so I have a 12 I have a 12-cup muffin pan prepared, greased with canola oil. You could also use the coconut oil for that, but it might leave the edges of it a little crispier than normal. So I just did canola oil. And then in a medium bowl, I'm going to mix 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. These chia seeds are loaded with, they're high in protein and fiber, and omega oils, and they're anti-inflammatory, and they're essentially tasteless. So whatever you're putting them into, they're just going to absorb the moisture in them. And in this recipe, we're going to substitute eggs. So they are technically vegan because there's no animal byproduct. So I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of chia seeds. 1, 2. Then I'm going to add 3/4 cup of water. Go over here. And let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes until it gets to a chia water slur. It's going to be very similar to the egg white of an egg. Just going to sit that over here. As this sits, we're going to mix our dry ingredients. So I've already measured out to make it easier the flours, but this is 1 1/4 cup of the brown rice flour, a 1/4 cup of the tapioca starch, and a 1/4 cup of the potato starch, plus the 3 teaspoons of the xanthan gum. Just gonna go in here. Into this mixture, I'm going to add 3/4 cup sugar. Normal muffins, especially pumpkin muffins, are going to have a whole lot more sugar, but later on we're going to use an ingredient that's going to sweeten it as well, so we cut back on the sugar. So we add that. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of the baking soda. So I'm using a 1/2 teaspoon, so I'm going to do 2 1/2 teaspoons. 1 and 2. I'm going to go ahead and get a fork to combine the dry ingredients that I've already done, so it makes it easier to blend later. And you need to make sure that you're doing this right amount of each of the ingredients, because baking is more of a science, and if you do too many of one, your baked good will not come out the way you want it to.